Jordan Williams is with the Taxpayers Union. Does a good job, keeps an eye on this sort of stuff. And what's the message? We're feeding kids who can feed themselves. We've cocked this one up because we've tried to do it on the cheap, and it's caused all sorts of disarray and potential job losses, and companies going belly up. Truth is, it's a Jacinda Ardern policy. And there's no need, and there's no need to keep it. But they kept it anyway. That will be national, not going to upset too many people. But Seymour's never been into a free lunch. It's user pays you go, isn't it, with Seymour? Poor guy reluctantly had to take it on board and cut so much out of it, it couldn't stand up. Jordan Williams joins us. Jordan, g'day, nice to see you.
G'day, Duncan.
Whose job is it to feed children?
It's the parents. And it's pretty, we're going to do some polling on this next month, but certainly the surveys that we've done would suggest that the vast majority of New Zealanders agree with that position. I think very clearly there is, sadly, a cohort of kids that, for whatever reason, their parents are unable or unwilling to give their kids a school lunch. But this sort of program whereby you're covering also hundreds of thousands of kids that parents are perfectly able and willing to provide your kid a lunch is how we're getting this mess. I mean, the idea, you look at the, frankly, arrogance of those teachers at Nuhaka School, just south of Gisborne. Let's just peel back what they're saying on this lunch. They're saying that, the lunch is so bad, it is so not tasty enough that some of our kids are bringing their own lunches to school. Oh, goodness gracious me. I mean, anyone with kids will know that kids are fussy eaters at the best of times. If it's really so bland, I would say that the best remedy could be a little bit of salt and pepper rather than calling up TVNZ for the outrage mob to come and visit your school and get pictures of, if you believe the school, half the lunches going to the pigs. Well, any resemblance of common sense would suggest that perhaps the school should be ordering less lunches if, as they claim, half are going to the pigs.
What do you make of some people say, oh, well, they purposely drove this thing into the ground, they defunded it and drove it into the ground to make it look like it couldn't work and it didn't work, so now they can cancel it. They've given us every excuse to cancel it. What do you make of that theory?
Well, goodness gracious me, who would have thought that a sort of centralised system would not be so good? I mean, the fact is, the government is borrowing this year $12 billion. We are in deficit. That's the size of what they've got to close. David Seymour, has marched along, and I can certainly understand the temptation. So, well, we can turn something, I think 250, I can't remember off the top of my head, 300 million down to 100 and something million, and provide this more efficiently. Because you look at the way Labor talk about school lunches, it's a quasi sort of make work scheme as much of anything else. Very clearly, the last one was inefficient. But the great irony of all this, as you were alluding to earlier, is that proposition to voters has been, we can't let the Nats simply better manage what, the Labour's manifesto. And yet now, they've somehow got themselves in a position where they are managing, not the Nats, or holding them to account. ACT Party is managing a Jacinda Ardern policy position. No, I don't think that it has been run to the ground. I would actually take Richard Prebble's view, where I'd turn it around totally and use that money to, one, direct that, the lunch program to where it is most needed, and two, actually give that money to the schools to, here's a radical idea, educate the kids.
Would you feed those schools and those low decile schools and those kids that are most in need? Are you actually believe that at the bottom end they should be fed?
Well, I mean, it perhaps suggests if a kid isn't coming to school, given our social welfare assistance program, that it does suggest there are larger issues going on in that home. And that actually other agencies should perhaps be brought in. I mean, one of the things that Richard Prebble pointed out is there would be a lot of those kids in poverty where the parents are smokers. And when you're charging $35, $40 for a pack of smokes, that's where a lot of that money is going. And, addiction is quite cruel, clearly, and, why should the kids pay for that? But what we've got at the moment is the vast majority of the kids that are getting these lunches, whether they're eating them or not, or passing them on to the pig, as is the case in Nuhaka, it's very clearly not being targeted. And I would argue that if, for that small cohort of kids that aren't being fed, perhaps that money would be better used, really taking a look at what the issues are going on in that household and the reason for that. Because I'm not, don't often take the Prime Minister's position on these sorts of matters, and he was a little bit slow getting there. But a loaf of bread and some Vegemite or Marmite is not actually that expensive. I mean, when the government, the last government wanted to provide, the vegan tofu Rolls-Royce lunches for the kids, which was pretty nuts. I get that the stuff coming from commercial kitchens, the media are going to pick up. There's going to be problems, although this ridiculous situation and frankly, it speaks volumes of the editorial standards and leadership at Television New Zealand to be reporting on a fourth-hand account of someone told a friend, told a family member, told a blogger that TVNZ had picked it up and ran with. But the idea that we've got some sort of superhero flies that flew out of a sealed lunch that had been in an oven for an hour or something at 180 degrees. This is nuts stuff. And I mean, that is the sort of thing that is driving, as your platform benefit from, the plummeting trust in our mainstream media and particularly that TVNZ, RNZ newsrooms.
Yep. Hey, you're talking there about the $12 billion that the government will have to borrow this year to make ends meet. And so GDP figures come out today for that last quarter of last year, which is expected to be confirm once again that the recession sort of stretches. If you look at this government spending, they're spending more than the last government did. I don't know if they've cut much at all. I wonder if they've reallocated money. I'm not sure that they've been that tough in their approach at all, Jordan.
Yeah, if only beginning is the amount of cuts is what the media would claim we are. I mean, it is, it's a parallel universe. Again, this is Radio New Zealand, Television New Zealand land. It's parallel universe stuff where they talk about the brutal cuts in Wellington. Look, Nicola Willis's budget last year, or the current financial year we're in, not only spent in nominal terms more than Grant Robinson, it spent more in real terms than Grant Robinson. And as a percentage of the economy, the government is larger now than it was when Grant Robinson left. Now, I put to Nicola Willis when I interviewed her at National Field Days in the middle of last year. This was after last year's budget. And I said to her, why didn't you use Jacinda Ardern's big spending 2019 so-called well-being budget as the baseline of your spending going into last year's budget? She literally laughed at me. She literally thought that was a ridiculous idea. And I think that when that is the prism, the intellectual prism, or the what's the term, Overton window you're operating in, then no wonder the Nats are not getting on top